Friends, hello. We are back with Jake and the Hobo, My Summer of Love, and meeting again New Orleans, one of the most enchanting, wonderful city that we've had the pleasure to have known. And many of the stories that happen throughout the book of Jake and the Hobo about a 16-year-old girl fleeing an abusive family in Black Mountain, West Virginia, and meeting with the man who would change her life, Erasmus P. Hobbs. Now, it's funny, one of the things that people always come back to and saying, so this is a story about a 16-year-old girl and a Vietnam veteran. And as she said in the beginning, and to caution this, she said, Erasmus said to her in the first pages, "You can travel with me, but our relationship is like a grandfather to a granddaughter. Is that understood?" And she said, yes. And this was the start of it. And I think it's interesting as comments have come back. In many ways, it's about how we all fall in love with someone else. It doesn't need to be a romantic relationship. And many times we have such affection for people, uh, people, young, old, similar age, across the board. And it's how we fall in love with people sometimes. And people become very dear and cherished friends of ours. And in this case, it's about this mentor, Erasmus P. Hobbs, a good Samaritan, a veteran, yes, a recovering alcoholic, someone who is suffering from Agent Orange disease, someone who he admits has made many, many mistakes in his life. But in this past journey now with Jake and the hobo, he is learning this process of healing and recovery, because it's interesting to me is this book is really about the process of healing. And for me, as a nurse, homeopath, a physician, as a writer, all these elements of healing play into this. How do we heal ourselves? How do we find forgiveness? How do we find redemption? And in this story, what I've tried to do is to weave together many parts of my life as a homeopath, as a nurse, as a healer, as a musician, as a storyteller, is how do we find this process of forgiveness? How do we find this forgiveness? How do we heal ourselves and come into this process of wholeness? So I begin today on page 138. Jake had run into a friend of hers, Mandy, who had been who had been a hooker on a street corner in New Orleans. Mandy, from the same small town in Black Mountain, West Virginia. And this is part of the journey where we pick up now. She said, Mandy is in the hospital. She's been beaten by her pimp, and now Erasmus and Jake are there. Mandy said, I deserved it. I shorted him $20 so I could buy a new dress. All I wanted to do was look pretty for him. Mandy, this is crazy. He's in jail for beating you up. I ain't pressing charges and he'll be out soon. We'll have a baby together and everything will be okay. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was crazy. Erasmus looked at Mandy. I'm sorry, but he's a mean guy. He has a long list of warrants for assault and battery, drug possession, and he's on his way to prison for a long time. Mandy sat on the edge of the bed and sobbed, He loves me! He loves me! No, Mandy, he doesn't love you, said Liz. The only thing he loves is the money you make for him. He's an evil pimp, like all pimps, and he nearly beat you to death. You're staying with us. It isn't a discussion. Do I make myself clear? She crossed her arms, and I don't think anyone would dare to argue with her. Mandy said, How long do I have to be here? You'll stay here till you're better. Clear? I thought Mandy would be grateful, but she was angry, and though she had been nearly beaten to death, she thought she still loved Stanford. Every day there was a little more brightness in her spirit, though I could see the light coming back into Mandy's eyes. But the emotional bruises would take a long time to heal. At the end of the week, I wanted to go out to the quarter to listen to music, and I asked Erasmus, I want to go to Jackson Square for music. Would you like to go? Jake, I'm a little worn out today. Liz can go with you for a bit, or do you want to go for a walk by yourself? You're right. I can go for myself. It's only a short walk across the railroad tracks. I shouldn't be back too late. Is that okay? I put on my pink dancing dress and sandals from Alice with a touch of lipstick, and this girl was ready for New Orleans. Erasmus smiled and said, Have fun, but not too much. It was Saturday night, and the French Quarter was alive with music. As much as I loved being with Erasmus, it was great to have the freedom to walk around the city on my own. A little jug band played in Washington Park, and soon we sang fun songs like Jump in the Line. Some boys had a bottle of wine, and I saw no harm in a sip or two. One cute boy, Tyler, with long brown hair, and his friend Paul took me down to the Blue Nile. Don't worry, said Tyler. I know the bouncer. We can get you in. I felt all grown up. At 16, I felt sexy and free. We danced to the great rock and roll band, and I was throwing back shots of hurricanes. I lost all track of time. It was my first time drinking and going out by myself. I was free and happy. In New Orleans, my head was swimming, and these boys threw off their shirts and danced with me. I found out later, at the Church of Love, Erasmus had said to Marty and Liz, I'm worried about Jake. It's 10 p.m. and she's not back. Do you know where she might be? Marty said, let me get a few people together and make a few phone calls. I know she likes Frenchman Street, and we can look in the clubs. Marty, Erasmus, Liz, and a handful of people from the shelter fanned out up Frenchman Street and started to look in the clubs. Erasmus and Liz walked into the Blue Nile. I was dancing with Tyler and Paul in the middle of the dance floor when I saw Erasmus. Uh-oh, what time is it? Erasmus, join us for a drink. I met these boys and we sang and played music and then found our way here. Great club, don't you think? I asked. It is if you're 21, but you're 16. One of the boys confronted Erasmus and said, Hey, Grandpa, you can't break up the party. Scram. Erasmus looked at the kid who was very drunk and pushed him back. You jerk. She's 16. The party's over. 16? Are you kidding me? Damn, we were going to take her home with us. I'm sorry, mister. We didn't know. I said, Erasmus, come on, lighten up. Have a drink with us. The hurricanes are great. Then I stumbled into Erasmus. All the music, lights, and people on Frenchman Street were a blur as Erasmus threw me over his shoulder. Party's over, Jake. I blacked out. I woke up when I got into the cool night and realized I had made a monumental mistake. Erasmus put me down near Marty's car, and suddenly all the booze came up my pretty pink dress. Erasmus took out his bandana and wiped my mouth. Jake, if you have to puke, lean your head out of the car. We'll get you home in a minute. I lay back in the convertible, and I don't remember anything after that. Wake up, Jake. It's noon. When the curtains were opened, I realized what I had done. Mandy stood there with a tray of oatmeal, coffee, and water. I never bring anyone breakfast in bed, but given that it's noon, I think it's time for you to get up. Where's Erasmus? And the memory of the boys, the music, the balloon now came to me. Oh, God, I am so sorry. What did I do? And uh-oh, I made a huge mistake. You sure made a mess of it last night. When Erasmus and Marty brought you in, I cleaned you up and washed your dress out. I was caught between feeling profoundly stupid, embarrassed, and ashamed. How could I do this? How? How did I do this? Erasmus walked in. Jake, how are you doing today? That was some party last night. I hung my head. Erasmus, is there a word for being more than embarrassed? He smiled. Human. Yes, I will admit you made a huge mistake in judgment, and I was very angry that everyone had to go out and find you. But since I'm a master of occasionally doing stupid things, I couldn't stay mad at you for long. However, you need to own up to your mistake. I'm sorry. I thought of all the amazing, wonderful stuff that happened over these past few months, and I felt it all fall away. I'm sorry to you and to all our friends here. I'm so sorry I embarrassed you with my incredible stupidity, atrocious behavior. I started to cry. Rasmus and Mandy put their arms around me. Mandy said, "Don't worry, we all mess up. Trust me, I know about monumental mistake." "It's okay, Jake. Here's a tissue," said Erasmus. "We all have failed. I have failed monumentally many times before. Fortunately, there's no harm, and it only reminded you and us of how far we have to go." Mandy reached over and held me close while I was still blubbering. "I'm sorry I let you down," said Erasmus. "I didn't watch out for you." I could see that his eyes were filled with tears. I stopped blubbering for a minute. "Erasmus, you trusted me. I let you down. The fault is mine, not yours. I'm sorry I let myself go and be a stupid kid. I should have known better. But here I was, as you say, full of my sassiness and smartness, and when these guys approached me and asked me if I wanted to go for a drink, suddenly I felt like a big girl. And as you know, one drink led to another, and soon I was dancing and carrying on at the Blue Nile. And though I'm ashamed I let you down, from what I remember, it was fun until I realized what I did. Of course it was fun. Roshi and I have gotten rip-roaring drunk and danced away more than a few nights. However, we both know where it landed us. We are both alcoholics, and we learned over a long time that booze was only a temporary mask to mask all the pain and loss. Erasmus, why do you feel you let me down? Erasmus looked at me, his eyes filled with tears, and said, "I should have been looking out for you. Here's a very long story that I'll make it as short as I can. As a boy living in Vermont in the Northeast Kingdom, I hated all the work to keep our farm and our 25 cows going. Up in the morning at 4 o'clock, milking every day, and at the end of the day, 365 days of the year, even on Christmas. Shovel the path to the barn, milk the damn cows, shovel the manure. Then coming back from school and shoveling the barn. We were dirt poor, cow shit farmers. No matter how hard we worked, we always seemed behind. When you talk about not having new clothes or clean clothes, I understand. We survived on hand-me-downs in the Salvation Army. I was lucky. I had a mother and a father, but my dad, with his grade school education, only spoke a little, mostly a yup there and a nod. The words I most remember is "Ras, clean the barn, chop wood, milk the cows." Though my dad worked 16 hours a day and never missed a day work, every day after supper he went to the woodshed with the pot-bellied stove, sat down with a cheap bottle of whiskey and poured shots till he fell asleep. He wouldn't drink in front of us, only in the woodshop. Mother said he never wanted to burden us. He was dead by the time he was 45. I never heard much about his family on Hardscrabble in the northeast of Vermont. I thought the farm sounded idyllic. I didn't realize all the poverty and hard work to run a barn, to run a farm. So we stop here on page 142 today. The story more as it evolves of Erasmus P. Hobbs growing up impoverished in northeast Vermont. The much poverty that occupies Vermont then and now, people struggling, scraping to get by. But this story is their journey together. Erasmus P. Hobbs and Jake Meadows, their friends along the way here in New Orleans, Marty and Liz. So we leave you here with this story now, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. So you can order Jake and the Hobo, My Summer of Love, and my previous book, Celebrate Life. And we hope you will consider that at Vermont Art Poetry Press, and stay tuned for more stories.